Everything's fine.
This week on Hattie's Unhinged, my guest is Jack Lawrence Brown, and you know him as the drummer in White Lies. Their debut album in 2009, To Lose My Life, shot to #1, beating the likes of Lady Gaga and Kings of Leon. Their following 2 albums were also top 5. They have toured the world, graced the stages of Carson Daly, Leno and Letterman, to name a few, and are about to embark on their biggest headline show of 12 years in Mexico City. I know him from the mean streets of West London and an equally edgy adulthood, veering from en masse gang trips to war-torn countries like the south of France, and now where we just chase toddlers around in the playground, toddlers that we know around in the playground, and eat baby bells and convince ourselves that we're still really cool. Jack Lawrence Brown, thank you so much for coming on Hattie's Unhinged.
That was a flawless introduction.
Wasn't it
Thank you.
flawless?
Yeah, no, I liked it. I'm very pleased with that introduction. You bigged me up more than I've been bigged up in many years.
Yeah, I know. I thought you needed that. I think we've. Yeah, I think there's a. Do you find like humble? Obviously, you have a 2-year-old who is fairly spectacular. Do you have those moments? I mean, like we did last weekend, we were all on the playground with kids running around, like, looking at snails and doing the slide 18,000 times in a row. Like, do you have moments where you're like, I was a rock star a week ago? Do you ever get those, or actually you in there?
No, I really like it. I actually really like it, and because my daughter Agnes was born during the pandemic, like I wasn't really up to much anyway.
Yeah.
Very good long-term distraction to have a child during the pandemic. I mean, questionable timing, but I really love it, and I'm here for it now that it's summer as well, and it's not to be that guy, but it's a fun age.
It's a fun age.
She can talk, she can do things. Everything's a lot more exciting than when they just sort of blob around. So it's good.
Do you have the opposite then? Do you ever go on tour and it's different now because you're like, oh, I kind of miss that thing?
Yeah, I definitely have. Like I did a big tour exactly a year ago actually, when she was just turned 1, and I was away for like 7 weeks. I mean, aside from the insane pressure that put on my wife, I did miss her a lot during that time. But then like the whole way you tour changes, like because the first week of tour I was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna sleep so much. I'm just gonna I'm getting to bed so fucking early, and I'm gonna stay in bed like in my bunk as long as I can. It's really nice. It's a very good undisturbed sleep on a tour bus. Whereas usually I would be on a tour bus like, all right, how late can we stay up this night? Like maybe we can stay all the way through till 6 a.m. Yeah. That's like I'm out by 11:30.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's good.
The rockstar days. Do you feel like the rockstar day? Do you feel like they're behind you? I don't want to patronize because obviously they're not. You're still doing mega shows, but that like sesh.
Yeah, I think like, but also with I don't want to say this, but we're not that young anymore, Hattie.
Cut that right now. Hamish, get ready to cut that.
Like in my mid-20s when we were doing it, I had way more energy to like stay up late and like really like live the rock star lifestyle, which is a very vague description of what goes on with White Lies. It's very lightweight, low key actually band, but I treat it differently now anyway because I'm a bit older, and I like tours are long and they're actually really physically exhausting. And that's a really boring thing to say, but like you have to kind of look after yourself because every night you've got to go and make sure that someone has a really wonderful time.
Yeah.
And
do you just pick one person? I just want someone to have a lovely time.
Usually one person. It's good to have realistic goals, and usually if someone's paid €30 for a ticket, like at least one of them will have a nice time.
Yeah, that's good. That's good odds. That.
Yeah.
Well, coming out of the rockstar lifestyle, this takes us on to the first question. Which, so are there moments, and I'll be interested because obviously we all hear the stories about musicians and how it all goes down. Are there moments in your life where you have done something or behaved in a way or made a decision that to everyone else has looked kind of unhinged, but you yourself have been like, no, this is exactly right for me. This is the right thing. Yeah,
I think that getting to the end of school, having been in a band at school, and I'd done quite well at school actually, like remarkably, and then saying, like, having the conversation with my parents, I was like, I know I've got a place at uni to like study something absolute, faff subjects. I think I was doing like philosophy and English lit, something like this. Yeah. Not something with not a career at the end of it.
All right.
I
think you'd have made a lovely philosopher.
Yeah, maybe I still will. I think that point where I felt confident that that not doing uni and not sort of putting myself through further education when it was basically what was a bit expected of me.
Well, yeah, especially coming out of West London, like it was. You do.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I don't. There was a point in my 20s where I think, oh, I kind of regret not doing uni. Actually, it could have been really good fun, and I would have enjoyed the learning side of it as well. But no, I think when we sort of made that decision as a band that we were going to pursue it semi-seriously, and like it's a weird moment where you do some work. In our case, it was like we wrote like 3 songs where we felt instantly like, oh, okay, maybe no one else quite hears it yet, but I think what we're doing actually is really quite good, and I think we're already proud of it, even though we're still
Were you 18?
essentially children. Like, I mean, it was 18 when we left school, and we said, all right, we'll take a year out. Like, we're not going to do the travel around gap year thing. We'll do music, see if we can make it happen, see if we can make it work. And it didn't really work for the first year, and I've alluded to you already, like previously, that we had our sort of school band, which was going places, and we had this tour booked with the Maccabees as a support tour.
So how old were you when you got that? 18?
I think we must have been 7. I think we were still at school. In my memory is a bit hazy and all of that, but I think we were 17 or 18.
When you got booked to be tour support for the Maccabees?
Yeah, and they were like well on the up, and they were a cool band and really lovely guys, and like we met them and they were keen to have us, and it was really fun.
And how did it go?
Well, with the day before the tour, we decided that one of the things that we needed to do was fire our loser manager, who was a proper loser at the time. Probably still is. Don't know where he is.
Shout out.
Yeah, if he's still alive. And he obviously took it really badly.
Being fired by 17-year-olds is a hot look. I can only
sat
imagine.
Him down in a cafe, and it was like we just like
these 17-year-old boys being like, we're having a business meeting.
Yeah, but we all like met around the corner first. Like, so who's going to talk to him? Like, who's going to actually say something to him? Like, none of us wanted to do it. It wasn't me. I definitely didn't do it. I think now I would be the person to do it.
I think you would.
But then I was like, no chance of saying these words. Because I mean, that feels mad as well. Like, all right, so you're 17 and you've got a manager and you've actually got a booking agent and you've got the balls to think that you're actually better than that. Yeah. So we're going to fire this grown-up person. Yeah. And we did fire the grown-up, but he acted as a child and immediately went to our storage facility where we kept all of our amps and stuff, and put him in his car and drove to Denmark Street and sold them all for about 20 quid. I don't know. He just
bad breakup.
Yeah, it was bad breakup. It was quite toxic.
Shit, man.
And so then we were like, I think we can't go on tour with the Maccabees now. We're basically out of equipment and have no way to travel. He was going to drive us around, our manager. We didn't think it through. Yeah, we didn't think a lot of this through. I think looking back now, I think we should have fired him the day after the tour. That's what we should have done.
Sure.
But anyway, we didn't, and so we were a bit screwed. But they were the sweetest guys because they said, "Oh, that's dreadful, but you can share all of our stuff. You can sleep on our tour bus. We've got two spare bunks and like stuff that." Truth be told, I would never do for another band.
Right.
So, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. No way. No way.
Oh, sorry. That's a shame, mate. Yeah.
Bits, but I'll let them on tour bus. No way. But they were very generous with their time and their everything. So we got we even before White Lies was the band.
Were you Fear of Flying?
We were Fear of Flying. Yeah. Terrible name. But we got we felt like we had. The wheels were kind of rolling, and one of the songs from Fear of Flying, we're like, that's a great song. We carried that over, and we used that as a jump off point for White Lies.
Yeah.
And it paid off. Very easy to say that in a blasé way now, but it was a big risk, and it felt like a bit of a gamble. And we got to the end of our year out, and we were, universities were fully expecting us to turn up. Do they actually care if you turn up or not? I think they don't.
I don't know.
But we didn't.
Not when we were paying what we were paying. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're like, oh, yeah.
But we thought, what, we can do better. We can make this even more than it has been. And it took. There were some shouting matches with parents.
I was gonna say, I bet at that age
they're very supportive, and they've always backed us to, follow our creative urges.
Yeah.
But there does get a point where they're like, yeah, but you're going to need to live at some point.
Yeah.
And it felt like a decision that they weren't keen on at the time.
Okay.
But very quickly, weirdly quickly, really, we got, I think, through a few good songs and some good luck and timing and all of these things, it turned into something that has been my life for 15 years now. And, that's longer than I ever envisaged even when we were starting out. Even when we got signed, I was like, I don't know, like what's a career these days? If you're lucky, maybe 2 albums or something, 3 albums.
Yeah, and a hot TikTok following.
Yeah. Well, but
how's your TikTok, Jack?
Yeah, well, there's a White Lies TikTok, but I don't know who uses it. I did like 5 videos. I thought they were quite good, to be fair. But
Yeah.
for something, my thing about TikTok is like for the amount of time and effort that's required. So it seems to me that essentially the shorter your TikTok video, the more chance you have of it being a success.
Right.
So you're trying to get it to like 7 seconds.
Yeah.
Someone told me, a social media person told me, yeah, Jack, you want like 7 seconds. Well, like, so nothing can happen in that time, really. Nothing can happen in 7 seconds. But to make 7 seconds of video was taking me 2 or 3 hours.
Oh, fantastic.
So the ratio is all wrong here. And then there's maybe a couple hundred White Lies fans who are even on TikTok. Because like our generation, in my opinion, shouldn't even be allowed on TikTok. I shouldn't be allowed on TikTok.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I have one.
Yeah.
I kind of run it for the band. I haven't posted anything on it at least a year and a half, I think.
Good.
Or a year. But
suspense, that's what you're creating, and I like that.
Yeah, but when I drop my next TikTok,
oh shit, when you drop your next 7 seconds.
Hot seconds. Yeah. It's gonna be like 2 years worth of production. I'm gonna put some budget behind it.
Yeah.
Some new music, a 7-second song, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Jack, I can't wait. I'm so pleased this is the podcast where we're launching your next 7 seconds TikTok video. This is huge.
No, I feel like next album I'm binning it off. I'm just saying to the labels, they're not. I just say, look, guys, if you want there to be White Lies on TikTok, you're gonna have to do that yourself.
Yeah.
I draw the line at it now. I'm too old.
It's called
I'm too old, and I don't have much self-respect.
No, well, none of us artists do.
The small amount that I have means that I don't think I want to. You watch me be on TikTok on the next record anyway.
Yeah. Watch integrity go out the window. I know.
We don't get asked to, because I think we're not. I'm going to describe us as not a naturally charismatic band.
Oh, I will not hear it. I will not hear it.
Watch. Basically, when we were, so when, you know, like when you're like 17 or 18, especially, you don't really know. Okay, so like look back at what the Arctic Monkeys looked like when they were coming out. Like when they were 17, 18, like spotty teenagers, basically.
Sure.
We weren't a million miles from that. We were maybe a couple of years older, so, but also, you know, maybe actually bigger losers than the Arctic Monkeys when they started, but it's possible. But I think we thought the way we're going to deal with this, the idea that you have to have like an image, especially when there was like record label interest and we hadn't done a show, but all the record labels had these like 4 or 5 White Lies songs, and there was like a genuine buzz. Like, quite a lot of people wanted to meet us, and we had some new management, and they were like, "Don't meet anyone yet. Don't meet anyone yet, because like you're not ready." Basically, like, you look like a bunch of virgins.
Right.
So
yeah. That's nice.
Yeah. So
we're gonna need to get you laid first, kids.
So they were like, "You need just like." We need to sort out like what you're going to look like on stage before you go on stage, and like you can't just go up and sing your songs in like an Adidas tracksuit, which is what would have probably been the preference. But we decided, all right, well, what's very, very easy? Everything black. Everyone looks fine, and everything's black. And so we did that when we were 18 years old for the first White Lies show, and it's the same thing we've worn for 15 years. And with the start, we did it because we were like, I don't know if we have the personality to pull off anything special.
Mesh.
Like, I think it's better if less is very much more with us. I think the less attention we can draw to ourselves, the better. So not a great marketing strategy to
no, what are we going for? We're going for drawing the least amount of attention to ourselves while standing on stage and playing to an hour of music. Brilliant.
So that's why, you know, if you sign to a record label, big record label, they sort of chuck money at the problem, which is what they did with White Lies. They chuck money at the problem, and as a result, we never. I feel like we never did anything particularly cheesy. I might be wrong. There might be clips out there of us, you know, doing something like we did. You know, you do lots of promotion, and lots of it is in foreign languages, and that always feels amusing and a bit fast show when you have someone like speed talking Spanish next to you and then saying, "White Lies, why are you so depressed?" But we never, you know, I'm sure there's some absolutely dreadful interviews with us out there from over the years, but I think we've got better at, one thing you do get is like, you develop a sort of muscle memory or like natural instant reaction of how to answer dull questions. Because you get asked a lot of the same questions again and again and again, very dull ones. And actually, you know, you mentioned at the start in the intro, that we had a number one album. Yes, very long time ago now, really long time ago. Can still guarantee that most interviews, I was like, so you've had a number one album? It's like, yeah, not for a long time. Doesn't matter. I'm over. Like it's great to have one. It's great to have one number one album.
And what an album!
Yeah,
it was.
But,
it was everywhere.
But you don't have to.
Yeah.
You kind of don't have to worry about. Someone could mention that now, and I think I could probably, without even opening my brain, give you a stock answer about why that's amazing, and you just get asked the same shit again and again.
Yeah. Okay, so just going back to that album, it was 2009. Something happened. I feel like we've talked about this before. Something happened around that time in West London where it was all popping off, and I don't know. I mean, you were obviously on the scene and kicking around, and had been for years before on like the indie shows and bits. But we had from memory, as someone who was not in the music industry, at the same time as you were coming up, Mumford and Sons were popping out of Kingston Grammar, Noah and the Whale were popping out of St Paul's, Jamie T and Laura Marling were West Londoners, weren't they? Or at least
she was from Reading, but she used to gig a lot in. There was a little. I was talking to Charles from the band about this yesterday. There was a great weird little sub scene which occurred. It was specifically for basically under 18s.
Okay.
And we were a big part of that when we were Fear of Flying, when we were much younger. Basically underneath where the old Brentford football stadium was, they had a pub. It was I think it was called Stripes Bar. And there was a really nice guy called Keith who was just a local, I think he was a builder at the time. And he was also a big music fan, and he wanted to raise some money for Brentford, who he supported. So he was putting on these sort of music nights in the Stripes Bar where basically if you were anyone from 14 to 18 could go. You could go if you're older, if you're weirdo, but it was mainly for for the underage kids. And just through, I mean, it was so rowdy. It was really raucous because like obviously they weren't allowed to serve anyone, but everyone was getting served. Like,
do you remember we all had those European driver's license?
Lots of
so good.
Lots of
just like
printed out.
Or your passports. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually,
we were smart.
Yeah.
I've actually left my passport. I've got the photocopy. These bouncers must have been like, oh, you got me.
Yeah. Seems legit. The story checks out. So we did a lot of that. And there was, but I think really White Lies actually happened after that. To be honest with you, I think we missed that boat of early. Well, that was kind of like maybe that was like 2006 or 7 or 8, and then White Lies was sort of a separate thing. We were kicking around a bit with that sort of scene, but it was much more folky and and actually we never really made any music that sounded anything like that. Even as Fear of Flying, it was a bit indie, but it was never quite. I like to think never quite the same as a lot of that stuff. But that's certainly where we like. Learn to play shows, I would say, in places like the Stripes Bar in Brentford, and we had some really really fun nights there.
Yeah. So we've done the thing. So the Unhinged decision, obviously, which is a lot of artists' answer, by the way, which is even just the doing it, like the Unhinged thing, where and people around you being like, I don't know, and parents. I mean, Jesus Christ, I still get it. I'm 35. My dad's still like, you are smart. We could get out of this. Like you could do other things.
Not now.
Double down now. But are there any decisions you look back on and you're like, that was an unhinged decision? And it was just that. I just made an unhinged decision. It did not pay off. That was reckless. That's going in the memoirs.
Well, it's tricky because I think it's tied in with a decision that has gone very well, which is like signing a big record deal. It set us up for life, got us a number one album.
Yeah.
To get a number one album when you're not a wildly charismatic band who just wear black, don't want to talk to the media, please don't ask us questions because we've got boring answers for you. Nothing really, like I think the thing was we were a bit shit scared. We were very, very young and like real grown-ups, bigger boys were asking us questions about about like our inspirations and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Like probably just copying our favorite bands. Like that's what you want us to say. It's probably true. Yeah. But anyway, I think in hindsight it feels unhinged because when we left Universal Records after having done 3 successful albums, number one,
so one and then
number 3 and number 4 or 5, I can't remember. Yeah. I think if any musician finished their career with just 3 albums and that was
all in top 5,
all top 5 in the UK, you'd say you've done really well. That's a successful career.
A good innings. Yeah.
And we left Universal and like the way it kind of basically didn't pick up the 4th album because they could see the slightly diminishing returns in the charts and also in the sales. at the same time as record sales dropping off a cliff anyway, because Spotify had just arrived around the time of our third album. We left Universal despite that success, definitely well over £1 million in debt. And there's an email somewhere that states the amount that we stated the amount we owed Universal when we left. And I always wanted to print it out and frame it, because I think it's like a wild indictment of the music industry as a whole. But that is the thing to me that still slightly haunts me, and I think it's paid off. But what if they're just like, oh, that million, that
yeah, we do need
quids.
it.
Like,
Yeah, what would you if they could just turn around and be like, is that a moment you get an email like that? I think I would just be like, laptop, like.
I don't think so. The thing is, I think it can't happen. I think.
Oh really? They can't call it in.
They can't really call it in, because I think
it's.
I don't. But the thing is, I don't really know. I don't really know any of the legal goings on about anything really that White Lies does. These are all taken care of by lawyers who do know, and they get paid their money.
Yeah, but that's when you hear things, isn't it? That's when you hear things like people going to jail. Be like, I just thought the big boys were taking care of it, and I'm not trying to stress you out, but that is when I like.
Yeah, but that's why it feels unhinged. It feels unhinged to me because I just don't know, and there's a good chance I'll never know.
No.
There's a good chance I'll never know how that deal was done, how it was allowed that we're allowed to do that. Is that something that happens all the time? Maybe it's something that happens all the time. If Universal say, all right, like, here's a big old record deal for you.
Yeah.
So you already owe us a load of money, and then, you didn't work out, you weren't Dua Lipa, so I guess we're going to let you go now. And they just keep saying,
they just take it on.
That's all right. We spent £1 million.
What did you spend it on? If you're all in black and Uniqlo finest,
I didn't spend £1 million.
What did you do, Jack?
This is one of my. I'm livid about
you sit
it.
there being like,
if I had
Tesco meal deals every night.
I wasn't spending £1 million. No, they were spending it on crazy stuff though. Like they were, It's worth watching the first album's music videos for White Lies, because again, you see like what music videos are. I don't know, like it's a bit nebulous. Like you spend £100,000 on a music video, does it get you £100,000 back as a label? Who knows? I don't know. They have to. That's their job to work that out. But they would spend big money on music videos. So I think a bit of it is tied up in sending. Like they sent us. This is Unhinged actually, and we said yes to it. To be fair, because we really love the director, who's an absolute lunatic, Swedish guy called Andreas Nilsson. He's done some wild music videos and lots of wild commercials. He's a complete one-off man, a real weirdo in the best way. And he was just sort of coming up as a music video director at the time, and we really got on with him. We'd done one video in Sweden with him, which was very strange, and all the people have no faces, and it was cool. It looked great. Yeah. It was a really good looking video. And he was like, okay, for the next one, I just want to go to the Arctic Circle, because there's this town in northern Russia called Nickel, where they mine nickel, and it's like completely desolate. And I was like, so what's the concept for the video? It's like, I think we're just going to go there for like 3 or 4 days. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Okay, we'll do that. And
I'm sold.
Like Universal. I mean, it costs money to fly us and loads of equipment up there, and it was completely insane. We were there for 4 days, and it happened to be the 4 days. Do you remember the charts? Do you remember when they were a thing? The charts, the music charts.
Yeah. Because top of the, and then you would announce it,
and then they'd do it on a Sunday. I think it was like the Sunday rundown. I'm pretty sure it used to be on a Sunday. And I remember basically we were like freezing our nuts off, drinking straight vodka in this town where there was nothing to eat. I think I ate 15 Snickers over the course of it. That was literally all I ate. It was like chocolate.
Is that the music video?
Nuts.
Just you chowing through Snickers videos.
That was basically what it was fueled by, Snickers and vodka. And basically we got a call like whilst we were there saying that the album had gone to #1. So honestly, the most surreal memory I have of anything, I think, in our career is Harry on the phone to Reggie Yates on the chart show, like in this town called Nickel, minus 15 degrees, and like we're all like huddled around outside listening to the phone, and him doing an interview with Reggie Yates. It's like, this isn't real. This isn't real life.
Waving your Snickers bars.
Yeah. So I don't know. I suspect a lot of our £1 million that we owe
is in Nickel.
Is somewhere in music videos and all that kind of stuff. But do you know what? I feel a little bit like that's a bit of a cop-out answer, because it's worked out fine. Everything's worked out fine. Everything's fine. But
Jude's all of us kind of like, but it's fine. Like
it's fine.
Like Fionn was there being like, no, but I'm fine. It's exactly what I want. This is how I want it to be.
And until someone tells me that actually it's not fine and you're going to need to find that money, then it's fine. But that's the thing. I don't know. I just feel like if I did it all again, maybe I'd pay a bit more attention as to who was spending that money and where it fucking went.
Yeah.
Like, where is it? I mean, they sent us, I know it's music videos that in the early days, we were backed quite heavily.
Yeah.
It takes that kind of backing to get an album from a random indie band to number one. And also, you were very kind at the beginning because you said, like, we held off the likes of Lady Gaga and Kings of Leon. Yeah. Those albums were released 5 months before our album was.
And you held them off nonetheless.
Yeah. If you're smart, you pick a really quiet week to try and get an album to number one. So we were good with our timing. But still, you can't take it away from me.
No, we shall not.
So, we were like sent around the world a lot, like really early days, in a way that we would never, I think as a grown-up, and I do count our early years of White Lies as not really being grown-ups yet. We weren't fully adjusted. And it's the sort of things like, it was the sort of time before like mental health was an issue. No, we
were all fine. Everyone was fine back in the early noughties.
Record labels would send you off on trips for like 4 months and you'd be going everywhere, in stupid orders as well. In orders that would fuck with your time zones and your body and you feel awful all the time. But I think they spent a lot of money like sending us around the world. I actually sent a message to Charles this morning with this podcast in mind because it crossed my mind actually, like what's the worst bit of travel that we ever did? Because I remember we did some like appalling traveling, and I find I want to see what you think about this as an itinerary. It's like one that someone might put together.
How old were you at the time? 25?
Oh no, we were like 18 or 19. Okay. So maybe we had the energy to do this. Like I just know that we turn this sort of thing down.
Yeah.
Like, regardless, we'd say no. But he said it. So it was a 2 a.m. flight from Tokyo to LA, where we came off stage in Tokyo, and because we needed to make the flight to LA, we weren't allowed to shower, so we had to come off stage like drenched in sweat into a vehicle to LA.
Oh, also lush for the other people on the plane. Real lush. Yeah, it's good.
I remember the way they got it past us was like, yeah, but when you get to the airport, we'll pay for like business lounge. There's showers there. By the time we got to the hotel, like, there's actually no time for that now. So you're just going to get on this flight to LA. So Tokyo to LA, hour layover before flying to Lima, Peru for 8 hours, an 8-hour stopover before catching a final 3-hour flight to Buenos Aires. That was about 28 hours of travel with no reason. Like, surely there's no reason
your
to do
time
that.
zones are going like, that's ballistic.
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad.
And then you got to Buenos Aires and presumably like bang on stage.
Yeah, pretty much. I think, and it's just
quick horse bath. What is it with your wet wipes? Just like
I don't think I did that. I think I must have been absolutely humming on that plane. But again, I think the sort of thing as a young person, like kind of living the dream, to be honest.
Yeah.
But like if someone again, the bigger boys, they say, oh no, this is actually the dream. What you're doing now, this is the dream. Off stage in Tokyo, Buenos Aires 28 hours later, via the most circuitous way that you can possibly imagine, no sleep. Yeah. And then do another show. That's the dream. I guess that kind of is the dream. I guess this is exactly what I've always wanted.
Did it feel like the dream at the time? Like, were you aware enough to be like, this is actually unbelievable, let's just suck it all up? Or you're sort of like, not running scared, but just on that, like, do as you're told, do as you're told, do as you're told. Like,
a bit do as you're told, but like a lot of it was really good. So like a lot of it was good times. Like, you also mentioned in your kind intro, like all the like US chat show stuff. Yeah. It's like, I will sometimes gloss over that in my mind, but it's like, again, if that had been the one thing I'd done in my whole life, I'd be like, actually, that's kind of amazing. Like, Actually, we did Letterman 2 times. Yeah. And did Leno and like met these weird, they're so weird. All of them are weird. Like they say hi, but they're like, their faces are barely even in the room. Like it's so strange. But all of that stuff is like, that is great stuff. It's all the other stuff that you do and you work out later. It's like, you could have done like half of that stuff and maybe saved your sanity a little bit. Because it was really, even as young, really young, energetic, quite keen, to be honest, going for it. I think even at that stage, it definitely took its toll on like relationships and like, I remember getting up at sort of like 4 a.m. sometimes in Japan so I could have a quick phone call with Louise, my girlfriend, who's now my wife, but like to have like a 10-minute phone call before she went to bed or whatever. It's like it's not a great way to try and run a long distance relationship.
It isn't, but yet here we are, and you're married and you've been together for what, 16 years? What are you on?
Oh yeah, don't ask me. Yeah, it's got to be that. I mean, but from before White Lies. For sure.
And with a little girl, did and I've asked Lou this. I was like, did she ever worry? Like again, it's the myth, it's the thing of like sending off your rock star boyfriend and them going all these. I was like, did you ever? Was it ever very hard? I said to her, did you ever worry? She was like, I think I used to a bit at the beginning because you're teenagers. You're like, we're so young, and he's on these stages, and you don't know. But was it ever very hard doing that? Or have you guys always been like pretty as solid as you kind of are now?
We're very solid.
Yeah.
I think that I think that it was stressful for a lot of reasons, but I think that basically I got my wild 20s out of my way basically when I was in high school.
Yeah.
and I was doing a lot of falling in love with a lot of
this is so were you, I mean, you
I was breaking some hearts too. It wasn't just that way, you know. I got my heart broken a lot of times,
okay.
but I think I maybe broke 2 hearts.
Oh, that's so that's nice, Jack. That is wild. You broke 2 whole hearts at 16. That's really good.
They might disagree. They might not even remember my name now.
Do you think you were there? It's so fun, like talking about you guys coming through and people signing you and be like, we need you to be a bit cool or whatever. Like,
I had a very severe bowl cut at the time. I think it was quite a strong warning shot to anyone.
Your mum had been like, nope. Are you into music, are you? Nope.
Yeah,
Do you feel like you were that wild kid in his teenagers years, or was that never going to be your gig? Were you never going to be
not really
that
me?
guy?
I mean, you're talking to a guy who's like, my passion, I think, until I was about maybe even 13. I think a teenager. I think I might have still been big into it as a teenager. Was bird watching. Like, I mean, real passion. Like I used to, I used to like make my family take us to the fucking dullest places in the UK to try and spot particular birds. Like we did whole holidays in the Norfolk Broads. Like they would probably have loved to have gone to some
Butlins,
you know, whatever. Yeah. Maybe Portugal's not this type. No.
That is not the cool.
Not going to see a dartful warbler in Portugal, Hattie. Are you? It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Not on my holiday.
Yeah, exactly. So I did a lot of
a
lot of like very nerdy things. I think when I was younger, and then when I became a teenager, then I just like I think my body went wild, and I was like trying to catch up with it a lot of the time. And then by the time I met Lou, which was actually really nice, like we met going to Reading Festival, and I was like so into her. She had no interest at all in me. Like it took all of the courage I'd ever had in my life to go and approach her on a train station platform on the way to Reading. So I was like, oh, isn't that girl like friends with someone who's someone's like, yeah, I'm gonna go say hi. And like I went and said hi, and then she was like, hi, yeah, like, and then we went and camped like next to them, and I think she was so creeped out, and then she basically didn't talk to me for like 2 months after it.
How old were you then?
5, I don't know.
Yeah.
I must have been 17.
Okay.
There was definitely relationships between me meeting Lou and wanting to be in a relationship with her, and her flat out refusing for quite a while, to a point where she finally succumbed to me, like my constant hassle. But like there were definitely like I remember inviting her to my 18th birthday, so it must have been when she was 17, had an 18th birthday.
Just in Kew Gardens inviting with binoculars and birds.
I mean, it was a punchy move because I was definitely dating someone
good.
at my 18th birthday, but I was like, Louise is the one I want to be dating, so I invite her. Then at least like I'm keeping my options really open. Then I broke up with this other girl like the day after my 18th birthday.
And capped your birthday.
Yeah. But we've been together basically, approaching Event Horizon time where it's been together longer than
you haven't.
Apart.
That's wild.
I think it's quite close now. Maybe this year, in fact. I should probably do the maths at some point and do a party. But
that is wild.
But that's kind of always been White Lies thing. Like we've always all of the guys in the band have been in like long-term relationships, and like, and the truth is, especially in those early years where we may have been the hottest property in our lives that we'd have ever been, it was like we're too busy. Like we were just everywhere all of the time, and really, really, really fun period of our lives. And I think we look back on it as a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
And we take decisions much more like sensibly is the wrong word, but like we consider shit a lot more now.
Yeah.
Whereas I think back then it is just like if someone's paying for you to do it,
and
and it's not going to cost you anything. Oh,
bananas.
then just like, of course we have to go to Tokyo and play a 500-person club in Tokyo. Why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah.
It's like,
It's Tokyo.
yeah, well, because you end up with £1 million debt to Universal, but hopefully they never call it in. So.
It is funny.
If they told me that, I probably wouldn't have done it. But
do you think even then would you be like, fuck it, let's set fire to these notes?
I think we just trusted people. I think to some degree, that's all fine. Like as long as the people you trust are good people, and the people we've trusted over our career have been good people.
Yeah.
But you have to trust. You can't. Your job is just to go and do the show and like, make the records. You can't micromanage it as much as I want to.
Yeah, actually, this is really interesting because I don't trust. I think because of my experience of coming through. I mean, obviously, I always say I'm on like career take 2 because stand up was never on the cards. It was never the thing.
Yeah.
It was acting, and then it became stand up. My issue now is I trust absolutely no one. Like I had a meeting yesterday. It was a lovely group of people, and I'm sat there like, and they're saying all these lovely things, and they're promising the world and all this, and honestly, all like you go through your head is like, this is bullshit. They're lying. This is bullshit. They're lying. They're going to get you. They're going to get you. They're going to trash it again. They're going to tank your career. It's all going to go horribly wrong. You're going to be stuck with these people. How you've grown up in the music industry? I mean, you have really. Like you were children and you've grown up in it. Do you feel you've negotiated now like a good relationship with the industry and where it sits in relation to you and your personal life and the stuff you're boundaried about, or is it still that like mystical world that it was for all of us when we started, where you're in these like you're saying, these mad situations with these incredibly famous people that you can't really believe exist, and at one point or another getting paid more money than you could dream of? Or are you more like measured about it all now?
I think it definitely stunted my growing up, like in a big way. I think all of us, it's like when you're doing well as a musician, as an artist, like it's such a privilege, and it's quite hard to remember that sometimes when you're in that situation, like you completely forget that actually this is what you wanted, and 99 of the other bands who look a bit like you and sound a bit like you didn't get it, so you should try and enjoy it. But when you get very used to it, you sometimes do lose sight of that a little bit. There's one story. I think White Lies are not a very like rock and roll band, but there is one White Lies story. There's maybe 2 or 3. There's one very good one, which is we did a lot of big support tours when we were starting out. Like when I guess it's probably a major label thing as well. When you're like a hot new band, like suddenly, big bands will take you on tour because it gives them a bit of cred. They don't need White Lies to sell a single ticket. Coldplay don't need me to come and support them so they can sell some tickets.
Disagree.
I agree. Muse the same. All the ones we did, all of those sort of bands around that time, like Snow Patrol, Muse, support tours. Like, so we played like Wembley 3 times, Wembley Stadium 3 times. We played Stade de France. We played like huge Italian stadiums, all that stuff, and that is wild. And there was 2 nights at Wembley Stadium. I'm gonna guess it was 2010, 9 or 10 with Coldplay, and the lineup. I mentioned you earlier. The lineup, very good lineup. White Lies, Girls Aloud, Jay-Z, Coldplay. I mean, who put that together? It's mental. But there were 2 nights there, and we had been double booked because we got offered this Coldplay support tour. We'd already accepted on one of the days at Wembley. We'd already accepted a show in Brighton, and so we were like, well, we're obviously not turning down the Coldplay support tour. But we also can't remove the Brighton Festival because it's a really bad look, and they'll probably sue us or something. I don't know. We're like, all right, we're gonna have to try and do both. But like it's a Friday night, the Coldplay show. How are we gonna get from off stage at Coldplay? You're on early when you're first on at Wembley. It's like 6:30. Maybe we're off stage at 7. Needed to be in Brighton by like 8:30 or 9. So very small window. And like our tour manager at the time was insistent. He was like, come off stage. We'll put your motorbikes, like courier bikes, and we'll drive you to Brighton because of the traffic. You won't get there in a car in that time.
Well, you're just holding your drum.
So we sent some crew down to Brighton to set up there, and then we had a separate set up at Wembley.
Got it.
And all that needed to happen was we needed to get the 4 people in the band from Wembley to Brighton in about an hour and a half, but on a Friday night during rush hour when there's a Coldplay concert on. Not going to happen. So they said, our tour manager was like, no, got to do it on motorbikes. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to sit on the back of someone's motorbike I've never fucking met to Brighton. I've never been on a motorbike. Still never been on a motorbike. You're fucking kidding me. I'm not doing that. So we said no to that. We were like, what's the other way you can do that? How are we going to do it? 2 helicopters? Should we get 2 helicopters? And like, I'm like, well, that feels like it's going to be really expensive.
I think we found your mill.
Yeah. I think you did. That's where it was.
There it is. You'd be like, I don't do bikes. Do you do choppers?
So, yeah,
you seen him be like, we weren't a very cool band. Fuck off.
Yeah, but I know that's the only cool thing we did.
Okay.
And we came on stage at Wembley and we all got in like a splitter van
Yeah.
and drove to like this park around
Yeah.
the corner where there was like some kids just playing football in the park and like 2 choppers fucking. Like,
So it wasn't even a pad.
No. It was
no.
a park in Wembley. It was just
Jesus.
a random
Just
park
playground.
in Wembley.
Yeah.
And like all these kids were like scattering as these choppers came down. And we got in our choppers like absolute wankers. Like, and then we flew from London to Brighton. We landed on the racecourse ground in Brighton.
Oh my God.
And our pilot, he literally might say this to everyone who gets in his
Yeah.
helicopter. It's like, oh yeah, you know the opening scene of The Apprentice where like the helicopter's flying around? Yeah, that was me. And so
you got that all the way
we're
there.
like, oh, can you do a bit of The Apprentice? Like, yeah, I could do a bit. I've got a bit of time. Yeah, right. So he like flew us around London in like kind of The Apprentice way.
Oh.
And then he was like, if you open the armrest, you'll find a bottle of champagne. And we're like, yeah, there's an armrest with champagne in it. Like, it's crazy. So we flew over Wembley. That was what we did. We took off and we flew back over Wembley. You can see Girls Loud on stage. And it was like, probably never top it. I don't think we ever topped it.
That's cool.
Yeah. The only other thing that I think came close for us, which is a much smaller thing, but in terms of things that are just like, that can't be real. Why is that real?
Yeah.
Why is that a real thing that's happening?
Yeah.
And I sometimes question whether it's true.
Yeah.
And I'm not able to check it, but maybe you can go on Amazon and do the check for me.
I will.
Basically, I remember getting Drake's debut album, whenever that came out, 2009 or 10.
Yeah.
Like when Drake was still a bit of a soft boy vibe. I quite like quite a lot of Drake's music anyway. So when Drake's first album came out, when he was a bit emo rap, no problem with that genre.
Yeah.
I got the album, and I remember being like one of these nerdy music people who sometimes like read through like the sleeve notes, getting Drake's first album, opening the sleeve notes, and it's like on a lot of rap albums, like they thank literally everyone who's ever lived, and it's just like a block of text, and it's tiny, and that's what Drake's first album thank yous are. But I remember thinking, oh, have a look through, see what's in there, and like it gets to a bit where it goes a bit weird, where it's like, I'd like to thank musical inspirations, Kings of Leon. It's like, a bit rogue actually, Drake. I didn't see you as a Kings of Leon fan. Fair enough. Like, good for you.
Loving you once, me.
I'm a fan. Great. And then it was like Licky Lee. I was like, that's really weird. Like, Licky Lee, quite at the time, really indie, quite small Swedish artist. And then White Lies. That's the only like. So I had to read it 3 or 4 times and I had to spend a lot of time Googling if there was anyone else called White Lies who Drake could be referring to. And I couldn't find anyone. And we tried to reach out to our Canadian label because he was on Universal at the time. So like his label probably send him shitloads of music. You know, like every time they do new releases. And I think he's quite a magpie as well and likes listening to all sorts of things.
That's cool.
But anyway, I've definitely seen the sleeve notes of Drake's first album where he thanks White Lies.
That's unreal. That's
is it real though?
No, of course it's real. That's. I mean, listen, I'm no musician, never made a sleeve note, but someone is going to be going through it. Do you know what I mean? They're not just going to be like, oh, wang a bit of a note on the end of your sleeve notes and we'll publish it. Like they'll be like, yeah, these 3. It's
was
only
it banter
3.
though? Maybe it was banter. Maybe no.
You open for Jay-Z. He'll be like legit.
Maybe that was it. Maybe he was at the Coldplay concert.
I was like, jeez.
Yeah.
Tell the story about where your dressing room was on the Jay-Z Coldplay concert.
Yeah. So on the Manchester leg, the lineup was just White Lies, Jay-Z, Coldplay.
Jesus.
Got rid of no girls allowed.
No girls. Yeah.
Right. There was no room for them on that lineup. And it was at the cricket ground in Old Trafford, which is like obviously a big open field, and the dressing rooms were essentially the commentary boxes for where people who were watching the cricket commentate from. So it's kind of fun. Like I'm a cricket fan. I found the whole thing quite pleasing to me in a nerdy way. Being in the commentary boxes, watching Coldplay. But before Coldplay went on, Jay-Z was on. So obviously we were watching that from our commentary box, and like we realised that the commentary box directly below us, they have balconies, and the commentary box directly below us was obviously Jay-Z's dressing room, because Beyonce was like standing out on the balcony watching Jay-Z, and then she had like 3 security team with like in-ears in, and one of them sort of clocked us like looking over the balcony at Beyonce, and I kid you not, like 30 seconds later there were 4 dudes in our dressing room saying, sorry, this isn't your dressing room anymore.
You get
to go.
Is that
So we
that's
got
what I
kicked
remember? You're
out.
like, we're the fucking guys. You're still. It's like, no, you're not big enough to look at
You're not
Beyonce.
big enough to
Actually,
look
you
at
think you're
Beyonce.
shit?
Yeah.
Don't look at
No.
Beyonce.
It was good though. It was yeah.
Jeez.
It's one of those ones where it's like, this isn't right because it is our dressing room and all our things are in here.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time,
It is
it
Beyonce.
is Beyonce and I'm not allowed.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I'm not
Don't
allowed
need
to be
to
anywhere
look
near.
at-
So
no.
you can move us on. And we all moved on very politely.
The bird watching
She's
binoculars make a
more-
comeback. Yeah. They've been in my bag all this time.
Exactly.
Speaking of cricket, you are a big cricket fan, but and I know the Drake thing is a very cool moment, but you've also got another very cool moment to do with cricket with the Ashes. Don't you?
Yeah. So I was aware, like, White Lies aren't the sort of band of like celebrity fans, really, aside from Drake, obviously my boy.
Yeah.
Aside from me and Drake, worth mentioning, we never thank Drake in any of our albums. Just
Well,
so
still
who's
trying to
cooler?
remedy that.
Yeah,
That's your next one.
maybe next one.
Yeah.
No, so we don't have a huge amount of celebrity fans. Like, big cricket fan. I obviously love Jimmy Anderson, like probably the greatest all-time English cricketer. And I don't know how I happened to find this out, but I knew that he was a White Lies fan, which was very cool. And in the Ashes series that we won, which we tried to work out, we think it was 2009. It was certainly after our first album came out. A couple of years ago, it must have been. Do you know? It must have been 2019 when this article came out. It must have been looking back a decade on at that Ashes winning team.
Right,
Blah
okay.
blah blah. And this article came out. Like, all my friends started messaging me like, "Jack, have you seen this article on BBC Sport?" I was like, "No, the one about the Ashes." I was like, "Just read it, just read it." I was like, "Okay, I read it." And there's an amazing bit in it where Jimmy Anderson and Graham Swan, I think Graham Swan wrote about it. Basically, described driving to the last day of the Ashes series, or the day that they won it, and parking up in the car park in their car and listening to Farewell to the Fairground, which is the song that we did the video for in Russia, and then going out and winning the Ashes. Like, that was like the last bit of music I think they probably listened to before they went and did that.
You are to Jimmy Anderson what Lil Wayne is to Michael Phelps. I'm obsessed with those. That's his guy, isn't it? Lil Wayne was Michael Phelps' guy.
I'm gonna need so much more context to
No,
that.
so Michael Phelps, like, you know how he always used to come out for his swim with his headphones on?
Yeah.
Apparently it was always Lil Wayne. Would you be furious as Lil Wayne? Would you be like, oh, some fucking schweffy white swimmer? Like, do you know, like, would you be furious?
Yeah, I think I probably would, to be
Yeah,
honest.
if Vanessa Feltz turned around and was like, do you know who I fucking... Oh my gosh, who was it? Oh, so my brother's mate, Niall Galvin. Do you know Niall? He's in West London. He was Only Real for a bit. That was his music name.
Oh, yeah.
He was
I
Only
know
Real.
that, yeah.
He had, you won't mind me telling me this because it's so good. His big moment was, it was while David Cameron was in office. And I guess Sam Cam was doing the rounds and trying to be cool and approachable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, someone was like, "What are you listening to at the moment?" She's like, "I love this new artist, Only Real." Oh, Niall was like, that's my guy. Like, I get Sam Cam. That's who I get. You're sitting there with Drake, and he's got Samantha Cameron being like, "Do you know who I love?"
It's the kiss of death, isn't it?
Kiss of death.
You can't stop someone liking your music, like,
or be furious about it. Yeah.
But
like,
there's going to be,
believe it.
I'm certain there's some real bellends who like White Lies out there.
Yeah.
Some real ones that I wouldn't want to know, that I wouldn't want anything
I
to
really
do
want to
with.
know. In fact, if you're listening, can you get in touch? Because I actually really want to know.
If you're strongly Tory.
If you're strong. Yeah. I'd like the bird watching community to latch onto this, and that be your guys from now
I
on.
would happily
Yeah.
do more White Lies stuff in the bird watching community.
Fantastic.
Just throw that out
We've
there.
heard
if
it
anyone
here.
Knows Oddie, If anyone knows Bill Oddie, that's all I need to know. Yeah.
Are you still doing any? Still tapping into bird watching?
Do you know what I do? I'm enjoying making my daughter live a little bit vicariously through my passion.
Which she does love. Like, she loves a squirrel.
She loves a squirrel.
Absolutely loves a squirrel.
Like, she can already do something slightly weird, which is like she can differentiate between lots of very small UK garden birds, which I've kind of made her that. And actually, do you know what? This is a really random but quite nice little link, because I was talking about that Maccabees tour. Yeah. I remember being on that Maccabees tour when we were very young, and talking to Orlando, the singer of the Maccabees. Such a nice guy, and really such a talented guy. I remember just sitting on the tour bus one night talking with him about bird watching, and it turns out he loves bird watching too. And he said, "I'm going to buy you at the end of this tour, like a membership back to the RSPB, which I've obviously been a member, which is like the Bird Society,
I know,
for bird twats." And he'd obviously we both had when we were kids been like signed up to this thing, and he never followed through with it. I don't know,
Wow, that's
know,
outrageous.
I know, but no,
Orlando.
I am enjoying like bird watching, not so much, but like when I'm on tour, like the guys know if they see something and they want to know what they've seen.
You're that
I'm the
guy.
I
You're
can
the
help them
guy.
with that. Yeah.
Do you know what kills me is I feel like when we were growing up, that wasn't cool. Like it wouldn't have been cool to be. No,
What?
Sorry, I don't want to shit on your day, Jack. You were very good, but like it was generally those things weren't cool. Like to have a little niche, to have a little weird, to have your little like. Whereas now I do feel like the guys coming through, being a bit niche and being a bit selective and being a bit is very cool, and it's more about this individuality. I mean, all teenagers ultimately are more or less the same, but cultivating individuality and being proud of that was, you know, the old like letting your freak flag fly. We did not let freak flags fly. Freak flags were absolutely buried in our bedrooms. They were not flown around.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, you know, if there was a bird watcher who's like 13 now, they'd have a TikTok.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They'd have an Instagram, or they'd have some way to tell everyone else about it.
That's what the thing is, yeah.
And you know, that's like, you know, that's scary stuff, I think, because
Yeah.
like kids will have social media presences and stuff. So like, if you have a thing,
Yeah.
you can tell everyone about your thing, and people will be like, oh, that's kind of a nice thing to have.
Yeah,
and
find other people with the thing on the social
Yeah.
media.
I do think we deserve some credit for the way we went about making the most of our situation as a new band, and it would never be able to happen now for so many different reasons, social media being the main one. But like we were able to basically develop off stage. Like we were able to come out like a debutante, and we literally played one show. We actually did 3 warm-up shows. We rehearsed for about 2 months solidly. Then we did 3 shows, secret shows around Cardiff, Brighton, and Nottingham or something like that. Just on random indie bills. We called ourselves Beethoven, just for fun.
Yeah.
And so no one knew who we were. We were just trying our songs out on a stage. Literally, the audience was like 6 or 7 people.
Yeah.
And then we had one headline show booked. And by the time that headline show came around, every record label was keen to meet us. So they all came to the same show.
Jesus.
They all saw each other. They all lost their marbles. They're like, oh shit, you're here.
Everyone's
here.
Yeah.
You know,
Fuck.
And so then the next day, we had like 4 quite substantial financial offers on the table to sign White Lies. So it was quite smart way of playing the game, I think. But the flip side of that is like, we're definitely one of the few bands who, because we're given a big head start with that in the tail end of the noughties, where record labels were still giving advances to bands that never happens now. Like it's a completely different ball game now. But it set us up, you know, like financially to be able to call music a career, which is such a rarity. And like, yeah, I think we feel very lucky about our timing in regards to that. I think probably if we'd been a year down the line, record labels kind of stopped, the industry sort of fell off a cliff and stopped giving out advances. Yeah. Because essentially an advance from a record label is like help you live so that you can pay your rent, so that you can then make us music, basically make your music, but we get to sell your music. But you're going to need some rent money, food money for the next six months to a year while you're making your album. And that's what that was. So I bought a flat. It was, I mean, that's boring.
Not Unhinged. That's a smart boy.
It felt mad at the time because we were so young to be doing stuff like that, and like again, like taking on a mad debt. But no, it's like that. That's a really boring answer. But I've probably bought some really like horrendous clothing. You know, there was probably a time where I was like, I could only buy clothes from expensive shops because like, maybe I'll spend like 6 months being like a fashion guy. Yeah, I don't think there's any photos of that time. But
I hope there are.
But I definitely bought, you know, stupid like, I don't know, 500 quid jumper or something.
It's wild
Why would I do that?
But it's wild how quickly, like, as 2 people who actually aren't that way inclined at all. I even had that moment when I was in LA and the Royals was about to come out and we were doing like, again, the nonsense, like the pre-Oscars red carpet parties and like doing this thing, these like promotions for Lionsgate and go. And like a lot of the girls were going to these like gifting suites where you're
fun.
just. Yeah, I didn't. I remember crying. I actually remember crying about it, being like, "Why doesn't anyone mean to go to a gifting suite?" It's like, God, fucking look at the fucking state of you. Like, no one, no.
What did they gifting? What was the gift?
Just cool stuff. And then I guess people. You just walk around hotel rooms and they give you stuff, and then the people who've given you stuff take photos with you holding the stuff. And listen, I've always been someone who looks like she's just been found in a skip. So it was very look, she's put on a lash today, but we all know. And but there was a moment I remember, like, and I was with my boyfriend at the time, and he'd come out to LA for a bit, and I was in this like coat in like one of those ridiculous, like Nordstrom, department stores you have no business being in. Hattie, like you have no business being in this coat. There was someone like $800, and I was like, and it was ridiculous. Like it was one of those really structured, like massive shoulders. Like I was a bit like if Lady Gaga was turning up to then like reveal the meat underneath her. Do you know what I mean? Like one of those coats, just like. And I remember standing there being like, I could be this guy. I could be this guy. And my boyfriend just walked in and went, what are you doing? No. Like, I was like, but I could be this guy. And there's a moment. If you had
unlimited funds, it's probably what would happen. Like,
and that's why I think it's good that we don't. Because, but it's amazing how quickly you, if you're surrounded by it enough and the talk around you is enough, then you're like, I could be this. I could be this. Cowboy hat? For sure. I could be a cowboy hat girl. You're like, but you're not a cowboy hat girl.
Yeah, that's why stylists are so dangerous. Like White Lies have always stayed clear of stylists for this reason. Also because we all just because we just wore black. But then at some point, someone was like, "Oh God," do you know what it was? And you can find it, and it's embedded in YouTube for the rest of history. Good. But like when we did, I think it was 2011, we did Glastonbury. Was a good billing for us. Like we were kind of at our peak at that point. So it was like maybe second from top on the other stage, which is great billing, like sunset slot. We looked so shitty in that because I think we had a stylist for that one show, and that she was like, I think you guys are just wearing a bit too much black, like let's move towards grey. And so we just looked like accountants. It's just like, it's like maybe might have been my biggest ever show at the time. And
those like shiny grey suits.
Just like not too shiny, They were fine, but it was not a look.
No, I love.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's accountant. It's an accountant. He's giving accountants.
It is. It's absolutely giving accountants.
Yeah.
You must have been sweating like a bitch in that, like in a two-piece.
Yeah.
What do you wear for drumming? Because you've got to get your arms out. So I mean, it's a question, but like, are you a vest dude?
No, I want to be.
Are you a topless dude?
I want to be as covered as possible.
Sure.
I did a topless gig actually when I was 16.
Nice. Yeah.
At Frog Club, which is long gone, but it did lead to me.
I've done loads of topless gigs at 16. Don't worry about it.
I did get with the girl that I was trying to get with after
that. What? Paid off, baby.
It was a very bad show, though. I don't remember that much.
That's so funny.
Doing. I think I mentioned to you earlier about doing the first show and having all the record labels there, and we then signed our record deal the night before what was to be our second show. So like a week later, we had a show at the Barfly, which I think is still there in Camden. And we basically we signed our deal the night before and all gone out with the label and been bought a fancy meal and drunk so much, and like we felt appalling. And our show was at like 2 a.m. the next day.
What?
So, no, not like. I mean, as in like.
You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a late show. It was like, so tired, and that was. I mean, it was a catastrophe, and like that's one of those things which I feel is like it's a bit of luck, but also we were insanely hungover. But if that had been our first show, no one would have touched us. I mean, it was like. Like instruments were falling apart. Our drum kit was falling apart. The keyboards stopped working.
Oh my God.
Like we were all hanging out our asses, and like it was appalling. Like it was one of the few times where I've been on stage and I've thought, like, I feel like I should give people their money back for this. It's that bad. And then we found out afterwards, because there was so much hype on us on the first show, this Barfly show, like all the celebs had turned up. Like there was like, in terms of people that I love
you
and
respected.
respect,
Yeah.
Like Nick Cave was there.
Oh my God.
Like Jarvis Cocker was there. I think there was a rumor. Was there a rumor that Morrissey was there? I think Morrissey was there. This was before he turned out to be a massive racist.
Sure, and your drum kit fell apart on him.
Yeah, and it was just the worst thing ever.
There's nothing like that. Is like, we obviously in comedy it's bombing. Like when it's just awful.
Yeah,
It's the worst.
It's a very stressful feeling. I think is what it feels like. But I don't know what it's like for a comedian. Like you have to carry it. Like I don't have to do too much. I'm at the back. Like it never feels like it's all on me. You start drumming like higher and higher. Like, I get very tense. Everything. Like the worst thing that I can do in a show is drop a drumstick, and that's embarrassing. and it's obvious because like
Half the
everyone
sound
turns around,
disappears.
like almost the band,
Yeah.
like, "Cha!"
Yeah.
And I've done that a few times, and that's like crawl into a hole, die.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't matter if the rest of the show is the best thing ever. Like I'll
You've dropped
always
a
remember this
drumstick.
as the show I dropped a drumstick. That's happened a few times. When we've done like TV stuff,
Yeah.
that's the thing I've been the most worried about. It's like, what if I'm on Letterman and I drop a drumstick? Oh my god,
Because
they
committed
won't
to the
because
screen
they won't.
forever.
Yeah, they're not gonna say I'll do it again.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the
Yeah.
absolute worst. I mean, it's the worst thing about TV. Is that it's out there then. They have
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Television has that. It's
Yeah.
theirs. And it was the worst. I remember like when the Royals came out, again to make it's all about me. The pilot, I'd seen the pilot and we'd all watched it together, like a few of us who were like still, now best mates, just sat there and been like, oh. And you go, okay, so this is gonna go out. Okay. And you just sort of have this thing where you're like, right, so I guess we just really enjoy the next 3 months before this thing comes out and all our careers end. Like, and it is, they have that. There is nothing you can do. There's nothing. It's one of the saving graces about comedy is I have a bad show. It's like, well, tomorrow you might not.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, that's fine.
That's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I think. And actually, I think that's maybe similar, like with touring. Like, if you have a show that you don't feel was great, I know the thing about comedy, I think that is really tricky versus music is like we can go out and play the hits. Like we can go and do the thing that people have paid the money to see. And like when you're, I don't know, like when you're doing a stand-up show, like there's an element of riffing going on, and like there's not really like people probably aren't going to know. They're not good. People go to a comedy gig and say, "I can't wait for her to do this joke."
Some people do. I think
Really?
I think your Mickey Flanagan audiences do.
Yeah,
I
okay,
think
so
when they
very
know the
mainstream.
jokes, and it
Okay.
is a bit like playing the hits.
Yeah.
But I think those are the worst gigs. The what I call quicksand is when they're going badly. They've started tanking.
Yeah.
So you go back to your gold. You just go, fuck it. Do the stuff that always hits. Do the stuff that always lands, even though it wasn't part of the plan. You were going to be brave and take risks today and try the newer stuff. And you go back to the stuff that always lands and it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you're like, we're dead.
Yeah.
And then you've just got, because you're being paid for a certain amount of time. So you're being paid for a 20 or a 15, whatever.
So
you just go down. It's like that horse in Never Ending Story. Where the kid's like, I train you. And the horse is just like, that's how it feels. You're the horse. And you're like, I know how this ends. I know it. And I have to just go down with the sand. And it's ungodly.
That's so much more stressful than a concert because like we get to write a set list and it's like, all right, if this song doesn't work, at least we've got the next song. And we're not the sort of act who are ever going to be like flipping things around on stage. Like, oh, let's just do this one now. Let's do it. We're not that kind of, so few modern bands or artists do that. Like, you need the control. You need to know.
Well, also the tech team need to know what's going on, don't they?
Yeah, that's true. That's boring, but it's true.
No, it is true. Yeah.
No, I remember the one time that I felt like it was a disaster before we'd done anything was like basically we were playing a big festival. I think it might have been like something called Rock Werchter. It was something Dutch or Belgian, big one though. And we were on the same day as Radiohead were headlining. We were on the main stage, maybe like 3, 4 in the afternoon, like middle of the afternoon slot, and Radiohead were headlining. And I remember we got to the side of stage, like got 2 minutes. Okay, cool. Like, look, Thom Yorke's over there, like on the other side. He's gonna actually watch a bit of White Lies. Like, this is not a bit of him. I know that he's not going to enjoy this anyway. So that had me a bit stressed. I was like, I really love Radiohead, but I don't need Radiohead to love White Lies. I think it's so unlikely, and I think what might happen is that he'll watch a bit and hate it and then go. So I'm going to have to first of all prepare myself for that event because I'm going to see him there, and then I'm going to look over and he's not going to be there. Like, how many seconds will he last of White Lies? Maybe 30, I reckon. I think he lasted about half a song. But we then went on stage with him certainly watching us walk on stage, and my drum riser is usually quite low, but because this was a big stage, it was a taller drum riser. When that happens, someone is supposed to put like a little box or something for me to stand on, so that, like a stair, so that I don't have to like do a big sort of like get my leg over onto the drum riser. But no one had put one there
on your tummy.
So like I was like, oh shit, this is quite high drum riser. Maybe it's like that high. Not so high, but high enough to be
high enough that you feel like a toddler trying to get on their seat for breakfast. Yeah.
So high enough for me to get my leg onto it without using my hands. And I got my leg onto it, and I just heard my fucking trousers rip. And and like Thom Yorke was watching, and then I got both feet onto it, having heard my trousers rip, but I hadn't leant forward enough, so that I was sort of like teetering on the edge, like when you're trying to balance. I was like, nah, I'm going backwards, and so then I just had to jump backwards with like a tear right down the arse of my trousers, and Thom Yorke watching. And then get on with my hand, using my hand the second time, sit down.
And then be a motherfucking rock star.
I want to cry so much. All I really want to do is cry, and this not to have to be 45 minutes of my life now. And I was so conscious. I remember, because like when you're sitting on at the drum kit, like your legs are basically like that. It's like, how far has the rip gone? Like, are we talking all the way across the crotch to the front? Can you see it? Because it's being filmed from all angles. And it was just the most horrible 45 minutes.
You're chapped by this stage. Like, you just played
I think in reality, probably he didn't, first of all, he probably never even saw that, and no one ever even knew. But for me, it was like, it can't get worse than that. It cannot get worse than splitting your trousers in front of like Thom Yorke and then performing a huge show just the whole time thinking about your ass.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Right. Well, I think on that, I'm quite happy to finish Unhinged with you showing Thom Yorke your chaps. Jack, you've been, as predicted, a fucking dream.
Oh,
so thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
you. I can't wait to see the Mexico. I'm going to do it.
Come to Mexico.
I'm going to do Mexico City.
It will be really fun.
It's going to be wild.
Recommend it.
I can't wait. All right. Thank you so much, Jack.
Cheers.